It's me. I'm going to try and make a quick video on how to use the command line on a Macintosh computer, Macintosh OS. Um, Mainly just changing directories, mounting a thumb drive or any USB drive that you plug into the PC or into the Mac, and moving around using the command line, changing directories, a couple shortcuts, and I'll go through making a couple directories toward the end. So right now I'm at the command line. I just open up a terminal window, and that's what you're looking at here. It's a miniature version of my desktop, or a portion of it anyways. And I have one of those Kingston 64 gigabyte thumb drives that I'm about to plug into the USB port. And when I do, you're going to see the Kingston, you're going to see the drive pop up on my desktop just to the right of the terminal. So I'm going to plug it in right now, and should pop up here in a second. There it is. So that's Macintosh automatically mounting whatever it is you plug in, any USB device you plug in. You can double click on it, see the files on it, but we're not going to do that because we're going to do everything from the command line. So right now I can right click on it, and I don't know if some Macintoshes, you just got to set up, I set up my keypad or touchpad to do a right click. I'm going to eject it, because I don't want to mount it I don't want the Macintosh to automatically mount it. It's still connected to my PC. I haven't pulled it out of the USB slot, so it's still connected. It's just not mounted where I can see the data. In order to mount it or even see what's there, you can use the disk-util command to do that. And the disk-util, you can just type disk-util. Let me go to that window there. Disk-util, and then use the word list, disk-util list, and it will show you what's mounted. And then apparently that disk is no longer mounted. I guess I'll have to unplug it and plug it back in because it doesn't see it. So it should say, like right here where it's dev1 disk 0, that's actually my hard drive. I don't want to access that right now. I want to access this thumb drive that I have plugged in right here, but it doesn't see it. So I'm going to have to unplug it here and then plug it back in. And when I type disk-util list, of course it's going to pop up here on my desktop too, but if you were only using the command line from a remote machine somewhere, you wouldn't see the desktop. So how do I know something's plugged in and connected to my PC? You type disk-util list. So I'm going to type it again. Let's hit the up arrow so I don't have to type it. Disk-util list. And now I have my hard drive, disk 0, and now dev disk 1, which shows me the name is Kingston, which is what I named it. And it's 64 gigs, and it's the identifier here, this column identifier. That's what you're going to use to mount and unmount the thumb drive, along with this little dev part. Dev means device. Since this is a physical device, it's a USB thumb drive. You can touch it, throw it against the wall, whatever. It's a device. So you have to use dev and then disk 1 S1. And I'll show you how. Right now I'm going to unmount it. So I'm going to use the disk-util unmount / dev, like it is right here, dev, and then / disk 1 S1, which is this identifier right there. Disk 1 S1. And as soon as I hit enter, you're going to see it disappear from my desktop because I'm unmounting it. It's gone. I'm going to clear my screen. Clear will clear your screen, but I made an alias. If I want to clear all that gibberish, I made an alias CLS. That does the same thing as clear. So I just unmounted the thumb drive. Now I want to mount it. I want to make sure it's still plugged into my PC or my Mac here. So I'm going to say disk-util and then list. See what's there. It still sees it. So the Macintosh operating system sees it. It's just not mounted. It's not over here on my desktop, or I can't actually access the files on it just yet. So I have to mount it. So to do that, I say disk-util mount instead of unmount / dev device and disk 1 S1, and you should see it pop back up over here on the screen. Plus it shows you volume is mounted. Dev disk 1 is mounted. Disk 1 S1 is mounted. Now, how do I access the files on that Kingston thumb drive? I have to know the path. Currently, let me clear the screen. To see where you are presently, where you currently are, you have to type present working directory to see the directory that you're actually working from right now. pwd, present working directory. If I hit enter, it's going to show me a nice neat little path where I am. I'm in users rob, which is my home directory. And to see where this thing, where the computer mounted this thing, I need to type the word mount, M-O-U-N-T, and hit enter. And if you can sort through all the gibberish here, the last line, or next to last line, before you give me my cursor back, is dev disk 1 S1 on volumes Kingston. That's where it's mounted, is this right here. Volumes Kingston. That's the path where it's mounted. And when I say path, everything on a Macintosh hard drive is relative, or is off the root of the computer hard drive. So let me clear the screen. This / is actually the root of the hard drive. So I'm going to cd change directory to / and nothing else, and just enter. And now if I type ls to look and see what's there, it's going to show me every single thing, every file, every folder, everything that's on my hard drive. This / is the same thing as C:\/ on Windows. The exact same thing. But I'm going to go back into my directory, and I'm going to use an absolute path to get there, which is my home directory is in users right here, this folder users. And you can always tell the folders versus the files, because the folders have this trailing /. And see if I can find the file here somewhere. This is a link. Is there a file? Give me a file. Alright, here's a file, named file. It has no trailing / on it, so you know it's a file. The ones with trailing slashes are all directories, so you can change into them. You can cd into a directory. So I'm going to change directory into users and then again into rob. And I can do that in one shot. cd / users rob, and it takes me right back to my home directory. And if I want to see where I am, present working directory, I'm in users rob. So I have my USB stick mounted. I typed mount. And now I want to go to my USB stick and see what's on there. See what kind of files I have there. And I'm going to change directory, cd / and type exactly what it shows here. Volumes Kingston. But I'm just going to type KIN, and if I hit the tab key, it's going to fill in the rest for me. And I hit enter. Now I'm on Kingston. If I type present working directory, it'll show me where I am. I'm on volumes Kingston. And I'm going to clear the screen because it's getting kind of messy. If I type ls to list everything on the directory where I am, those are all the files I have on my Kingston drive here. Of course, it's wrapping around. But all these files, surgeonet, tzkey, all that stuff, those are all files. So that's how you get to the thumb drive or anywhere else, just by changing. You mount it and then change directory to it and clear. And how you see where to go once it's mounted, you just type the word mount and it shows you where the system mounted it. Almost all USB sticks or thumb drives or USB drives will be mounted in volumes here on a Mac. Linux is a little different, changes it a different path, but Macs put everything in volumes. Let's see. So I think I went over. Let me just change. I'm in my root directory right now, so I'm going to go into. No, I'm in the thumb drive. I'm going to go back to my home directory, users, rob. I'm going to change from here. I'm going to go into a directory called sites, php play emar, and so I'm pretty deep into a couple of directories inside my home directory, and from the root directory I'm way deep into a couple of directories, and I'll show that here. This is the root, which is the /, and then users, rob, sites, php, play, emar. So that's a pretty deep path that I'm in. Let's see, I just want to go back to my home directory, and I want to use an absolute path, or not an absolute, but a relative path. And a relative path means where I am, which is this emar. I'm right inside this emar directory, and I want to go back 1, 2, 3, 4 directories back into my home directory. And instead of, I can easily type, and there's two ways to do it. I can use an absolute path and a relative path. I'll do the absolute path first. So I want to go back to Rob right now. I'm in emar, and I want to go back to Rob. I can do it two ways. Here's an absolute path. This means absolute from the root to where I want to go. So I'm changing directory from the root, Rob. That takes me right back to my home directory. Now let's say, oops, I left a file there I want to delete back in emar. I want to go back there really quickly. Best way to go back to where you were is to use a shortcut, cd, and then a dash. The dash means take me back to where I was. It takes me right back to emar. I can delete my file, and then when I'm done, I can go back to my home directory again, and this time, instead of typing the absolute path, I can use a shortcut, and I'm going to show you two shortcuts. Actually, I'm going to show you relative path, and then I'm going to show you a shortcut. So here's the relative path. I showed you the absolute path by using the / users rob. Here comes the relative path. This is relative to where I am. I'm in emar. I'm going to go back 1, 2, 3, 4 to rob. So here goes. cd ... this ... takes you back one directory. So I'm right now, this is going to, if I hit enter, it's going to take me to play. If I type ... and if I hit enter right now, it's going to take me to PHP, but I don't want to go there. I'm going to go keep going until I get the rob. So ... that would be sites, and then one more ... is rob. And if I type present working directory, it'll show me where I am. I'm in users rob. Now, oops, I still left another file back there in emar, so I'm going to go back to use a shortcut, use the dash, take me back to where I was. I'm back in emar again. So I showed you how to get there using an absolute path, and then I used a shortcut to get back to emar. Then I used a relative path. Then I used a shortcut to get back to emar. Now I'm going to use a shortcut to get to my home directory. And here's a shortcut to get to your home directory, which is using the tilde key, or the tilde sign, or whatever. That tilde means home directory, and that works on any X system, whether it's Unix, Linux, HPUX, any X system, and Mac OS X. So that tilde, as soon as I hit enter, it's going to take me right back to my home directory. And you'll see right here, it's Rob, and I can type present working directory, pwd, and I'm at Rob. I guess I can go over making directories. So you can use mkdir to make a directory, and I'm going to make a test directory, mkdir. I'm going to just make it capital TES, capital TS test. Now I'm going to change directory into test, and let me just show you what's here. Let me clear the screen. So right now, if I type ls, toward the bottom here somewhere should be test. There, it's got a backslash or a / at the end of it, so that's its directory. So I'm going to change directory into test. pwd, I'm in test, users rob test. Now I want to make a couple more directories in here. I can use the mkdir. Let's say I want to make a directory called main directory, and then a subdirectory inside that directory. So I'll make a directory called main. Oh, actually, makedir has arguments that you can, switches you can apply to it. And the one I always use is makedir-p, which means make my parent directory that I'm about to make here the main, I'll say parent directory, and then / sub or child directory, subdirectory. And then I can make a space and I'll type another directory. So what this is going to do is going to make, at this level of test, it's going to make two directories, parent directory and another directory. And inside parent directory, it's going to make another directory inside there called child directory. So if I type ls to see what's here, I'm going to clear the screen. ls, you should see two directories, parent directory and another directory. Now if I cd inside parent directory to go inside parent directory, let's hit the tab key here, and I'll type ls again, you should see child directory, which is right there. So it's a quick way of making a whole structure or directory structure without having to make the directory, go into it, make another directory, go into that one, make another directory. You can make it all in one shot using the -p switch. Oops. -p, mkdir -p. But I made an alias on my machine. If I type md, which is the same as in Windows, and a directory name, a directory name, it'll do the same thing as mkdir. If I type ls, a directory name right there. Now let's see, where am I? pwd. So I'm in test parent directory. I don't want these directories anymore. I want to get rid of everything. I want to get rid of test and everything underneath it. So I'm going to go back. Let's see, I'm in parent directory, so I go back 1, 2 to get to my home directory. / So I'm in my home directory. Now I want to get rid of test because I know test is in here, ls. I want to delete test and everything underneath it. So I'm going to type rm-f. -f gets rid of the files. Capital R will help you get rid of the directories because it'll go into the directory. It'll get rid of the directory itself and recursively everything underneath that directory or everything in that directory. So test, and be careful with this because there's no return. So if you delete something, you better hope you have a backup. And now that mine's set up where it doesn't tell you that, hey, I deleted it for you. Now if I try to change directory, actually I'll do a listing to show, and this test should no longer be here when I do an ls. You'll see all these other files except for test because it's gone. I just deleted it. It's gone. So I think that's it. I just covered mounting and unmounting, showing where you are, present working directory. What else? Showing the path that's where something is mounted, where the system mounted it by typing the word mount, and it'll show you the device name that you have and where it's mounted, basically. And it even shows you the file system, but it sees FAT32 and stuff as MS-DOS because it's Linux or Unix. They treat all Windows type stuff as MS-DOS no matter what it is, it seems. Let's see. Went to changing directories using absolute paths and relative paths, or shortcuts here. And in the relative path, which would be // users rob, and then making directories, mkdir, with the -p to get your child directories underneath. Oh, that's it. This is about 20 minutes. That's long enough. Out. I forgot to mention that if you change directory onto your thumb drive or your key drive, like right here, if I type present working directory, I'm on my thumb drive, my Kingston thumb drive. Now let's say I forget and I open up another terminal window. This is on the thumb drive right here. I'm mounted and I'm doing some work, whatever, on the thumb drive. And I'm in a different terminal. I log in again to my system or open up another terminal, and I tried to unmount. Well, you're not going to be able to do that unless you force it, which isn't a good idea because you're going to lose data. But right now I'm on the thumb drive, and I'm going to try to unmount it while I'm still on it. So disk util unmount dev disk 1 s1, and it's going to give me a little error message telling me you can't do it. Volume Kingston on disk 1 s1 failed to unmount. That's all you're going to get, but basically it means you have it mounted somewhere. You're either on the drive itself, you have a program open, like a document open on that volume on this Kingston drive somewhere. You're doing something where your operating system still thinks you're connected and using that disk. So in order to unmount it cleanly, you have to get off of it, stop using it, whatever application you have on there that's using files on there, or whatever. Go back to my home directory. So I'm no longer on that directory, on that disk anymore, the thumb drive. And now I can either unmount it from this screen, but I'm just going to go back here and hit the up arrow, save myself some typing strokes, and just hit enter, and it'll disappear. It'll unmount. It still thinks I'm on it somehow, so I have to go figure out how it thinks I'm mounted, or what's going on. But that's basically the error message you're going to get when you try to unmount something that's already, that you're currently using. So, but maybe it just takes a little time. I can try it again here and see what happens. Interesting. I think there's another command called umount. Volumes. This works on Linux. Should work here. Operation not permitted. So it still thinks I'm connected to it somehow. I'm doing something on the drive disk. But I'll figure out what's going on there later. But that's just the gist of it. You got to get off the disk and stop using it before you can unmount it. So talk to you later.